My name is Macy, and today I'm going to be chatting with Erin McGee, who is a trained pastry chef from Los Angeles. So we're going to talk about food and baking and all that good stuff.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hello. I'm so glad this worked out.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for
Well,
giving me
thank
the
you.
opportunity.
Oh, thank you for coming in here. I haven't done a live IG in a while.
Okay, I've
So
never,
sometimes,
so
yeah. So sometimes Instagram does updates and it looks a little bit different, but
hmm
it's fine.
okay.
So yeah, so why don't we introduce you, Erin, and you can just share as much or as little as you want as a Norwegian chef and
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm from LA, born and raised. Grew up mostly in like South Central and Mid City. My mom's single, and so one of the way when she raised my brother and I had a bigger sister too, or I have a bigger sister, and so she raised us alone, not much help. And so what she did to support the family was use our family recipes and sell them around our family's jobs and stuff. And so I would just sit there, and I mean, you'll find this on my application for the school, and even my James Beard scholarship application. It's all the same story.
Hmm.
And so I would just sit there in awe and be amazed at how all these simple ingredients could
Yes.
make these delicious things. I mean, I was the kid that would lick every beater and taste everything, and
Yeah.
so I came by it pretty honestly. And so being autistic, I've been undiagnosed. I'm 34 now, going on 35, and it wasn't until my 30s that the burnout and everything kind of hit. I hit depression due to the loss of a friend, and then just the anxiety and the of course depression that comes with it. Just was escalated. Um, Oops, sorry.
Oops. Ah, I see your
Yeah.
bottle of hot sauce there.
Yes. Always, always ready.
Yeah.
But I was trying to wave at you. But yeah. So, anyways, so being autistic, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't understand about
Hmm.
myself. I went through a bunch of jobs. Also, having ADHD is both. So the inattentive ADHD, and so I went about life just kind of fixing things as I went.
Hmm.
And so I did a lot of jobs, kind of like the jack of all trades in a
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
I had interest in psychology,
Yeah.
so I did that starting in community college at Santa Monica. And then I, switched around, just started working and did lots and lots of retail. So, honestly came by my interest in fashion. I used to dress up my Barbie dolls
Oh,
too. So that was one of my first things. But I can't feed people clothes, and
right.
you can't eat
Yeah.
them. So um, I ended up in hospitality. I did human resources even, and
Hmm.
hospitality. Worked for some big restaurants. I'm talking $12 million
Wow.
restaurants. And so one of them was Perch in LA, very popular, good for sightseeing,
Hmm.
kind of French themed or whatever, good rooftop. And then I worked at Gracias Madre, which was a vegan place in West Hollywood, very, very
Hmm.
popular amongst people. So I really learned how like to manage and train my teams and stuff. And so
Hmm.
I have a lot of front of house experience as a host and office manager and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I eventually our consulting firm was called Mise en Place. Was they were our firm for payroll and stuff like that, and so I joined them and ended up as a office manager, and then they asked me to do accounts payable. Now, due to my situation, I didn't know this, but accounts payable isn't someone that's this isn't really a great job for someone who kind of has the dyscalculia, which I
Hmm.
understand. You're
Yeah.
transferring numbers all the time.
Number dyslexia,
Yes,
right.
yes. And so it was really frustrating because I had to be extra vigilant in my work. And so, I'd get home, just be exhausted.
Yeah.
And so, what I did learn or love about the business is that I had James Beard awarded chefs
Hmm.
or nominated chefs in LA. And so I got to see all their ingredients, everything that they ordered. I
Hmm.
mean, I had clients getting cheese, like their cheese, fresh cheese straight from Italy, the
Wow.
farmers markets and everything. So the farm to table straight from California. I mean, there's a lots of ways or reasons why I came back or don't want to leave. And the farm to table is definitely one of them. On top of, LA's, bustling, and mixed culture, and you can get Tex-Mex and Japanese, and it might be a fusion even.
Correct.
And that's great. And so with my upbringing, my family's mainly from Texas. And so I had a lot of, I'm talking like peach cobblers and German chocolate cakes, pineapple coconut cakes, things like that. But I just wanted to elevate it. And so I realized that I never shut up about food. And so I ended up taking another accounting job just because I was kind of struggling to keep up with my workload at the first one. And then during quarantine, it hit me. We were all making our quarantine bread and stuff like that. I was making macarons and all kinds of stuff. And so I said, you know what? This isn't working for me. I'm going to France. I don't want to be here. And so I had one of my friends that was local over in Paris, send me a list and compare. And so there was cordon bleu, and then I ended up with Col de Casse. And so that I went in about 2021, at the end of 2021. And of course, it's a big like culture shock.
Culture shock, right.
But I was used to it. I just didn't live there. I wanted to run away to Italy and had so many European, or Euro trips per se. So I've been around. And so Paris is an interesting place to live. I mean, it's great for students. They have a lot of like social benefits for students in regards to housing and stuff like that, and just the infrastructure. But their accommodations and stuff was just not it. And that's a nuance that I just wasn't going to pick up on from all the groups and stuff that I learned. So it was a great school. I had a great teacher, but, it didn't come without any struggles or any type of, extra work, I say, or problems.
Yeah. Did you learn to speak French?
J'ai parlé un petit peu, so I can speak a little bit. I say j'ai mangé en français, so I can eat in French. Like wherever I go, I'm like, especially because I'm sure you guys can all kind of relate that we're picky,
right?
And so I like things how I like it, and I like it to be good. Otherwise, I'll go make it myself.
Right.
And so around the grocery store, I was able to figure out everything. And again, I was acquainted with a lot of the foods anyway. I would just spend more money on it in LA.
Right.
And so I would cook for myself most of the time, but I can order in French for the most part, say hi and bye. But it takes a couple years to really get to it. And if I didn't know Spanish, because I'm from LA, we kind of pick up on a little bit of that culture, and I took a few years. The Latin roots definitely help, but the accents and everything are a little hard. And so I think learning a language that has a lot of accents, and you have to, really, I can drink in German, me too.
Right.
Prost.
Well, I can order dim sum with my basic Mandarin. There you go.
There you go. That's a good language. That's
a good language. I wish
lots of people
speak more fluently in it.
We can work on that.
Yeah.
But the root words and everything help, but like the nuance and accents is something that I think I kind of struggle with as so as an ADHD or ADHD. And so it's a little hard, but I'm better reading it, and I can slow down and then kind of understand the context of it per se. And so I'm kind of like that everywhere I go. So
right. So what do you think I think that as an autistic with ADHD traits, there are also a lot of benefits in that we are very energized and we're very curious.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We can't just sit still and do the same thing. And you just described to us all of the different twists and turns and new skills that you pick up, and you may not stick to it, but it took you to another possibility, another door. And I think that's really important for people to hear,
Right. I mean, your account's called Pathways, and it was definitely that. Maybe a domino effect in ways. Something, one action or experience triggers another, and so us on the spectrum, we like novelty, and I needed something. I'm big on art. I love music. I love the kind of mess around with paint, and obviously I love clothes, and so I was like, okay, maybe I'll just play with my food now
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and make it something I love. And so I'm always, baking for friends, and it got to a point where I can make a cake without kind of measuring everything, just kind of
Right.
eyeball. And so I was like, okay, let's just manifest this. I have an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurial spirit. I went from
Mm-hmm.
selling candy in high school and all that other type of stuff to
Mm-hmm.
just never
Mm-hmm.
stop working.
Yeah.
So um, I'm really excited for my next moves, and
Uh-huh.
I know that I have to put in my foot in the door
Mm-hmm.
some way, and I plan on doing like pop-ups or more so
Mm-hmm.
like farmers markets,
Mm-hmm.
where I can sell my food to the general public and kind
Right.
of tour about and kind of give people a little sample. I
Mm-hmm.
know there's other bakers around that start that way, have a little
Yeah.
truck somewhere, cater
Mm-hmm.
before they gain that capital and get their
Right.
investors. And so, as I mentioned before, I really want to fuse that southern
Mm-hmm.
hospitality or just that that comfort food,
Right.
but just refine it
Mm-hmm.
and put it into a French pastry that was made with
Mm-hmm.
care and love,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
something that you can give someone like an edible piece of a bakery
Yeah.
at times. But
Absolutely.
we still like a good croissant every now and then.
Well, that's
Yeah.
hard to find. I find that
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same, right? The
It's
pastries you eat in France is not the same like here.
Oh, their dairy is superb. I mean, like
Yeah.
my family came and they're like, the milk is so sweet. And,
Yes.
it
And
doesn't really.
butter.
Yes, all the butter. It's so
Mm-hmm.
bad that my doctor
Mm-hmm.
told me to kind of chill. You know,
It's bad.
but the fresh butter is great.
Yeah.
Putting it in everything. But I mean, the butter makes a
Yeah.
difference. All their
Mm-hmm.
dairy is phenomenal. They have all
Mm-hmm.
exponential amounts of cheese.
Right.
And also the flour. The flour is, kind
Mm-hmm.
of milled a little bit
Mm-hmm.
different, very specific to,
Mm-hmm.
the weight or protein of it, has a little bit more moisture
Mm-hmm.
even. And there's all these factors, even including, the type of water you use or
Right.
or when you're baking, the elevation. One recipe
Right.
that we make,
Mm-hmm.
Down in the valley is not going
Mm-hmm.
to be the same in the
Mm-hmm.
mountains, or you're going to have to
Mm-hmm.
adjust. And so all
Mm-hmm.
those things have to be adapted
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
into it, but ingredients matter. And I think I'm with my former clients,
Uh-huh.
where they were, importing things
Right.
that mattered. And so, cheese was one of them for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of folks, or, getting truffles or
Mm-hmm.
sourcing,
Mm-hmm.
the right meat if
Yeah.
you needed.
Yeah.
Mind making a few
Right.
savory things.
Right.
So I really want to, bring that to
Yeah.
LA. And then of course find a way to feed my community,
Right.
and kind of make it. See if I could co-op it, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really into making sure my culture and my community is supported, and we can embrace each other. So
Yeah.
I'd like to open up a shop back in
Mm-hmm.
Leimert Park where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
They call it Africa Town amongst the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's drum circles and Juneteenth celebrations and such. And so I really love to make it a place where people can consume and even have like maybe a little bit of a kind of library, and source things that
Mm-hmm.
are from BIPOC companies
I love it.
and queer people, and just kind of support that diversity
Mm-hmm.
in that locality.
Yeah.
There's a word we learned in school called locavore, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's not just about being omnivorous or eating plants or being plant-based, but it's just supporting the company and the agriculture that's right
Mm-hmm.
next to you.
Yeah.
I am pretty big on sustainability, and so I'd love to
Right.
have green packaging and stuff, and so minimizing waste, being able to pay people a fair wage, giving back as I can, and
Mm-hmm.
just being able to share my passion with everyone, of course,
Yeah.
and expand.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys have seen or watched Moesha, but that was somewhere I grew, something I
Oh, yeah.
watched
Yeah.
growing up on VPN.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this lady named Adele, and she had like it was kind of like a cafe or coffee shop, and the teenagers would hang out there. There'd be spoken word and stuff. And so they would be, they went to Santa Monica, and it was around South Central.
Right.
If you're talking about Leimert Park, the fountain that that Moesha was dancing at, that is Leimert Park. And so like I really want to have that beat, and again create a safe space.
Yeah.
Before I go on to the next. I mean, there's so many layers.
Yeah.
I have to focus on one, and that's just
Yeah.
the markets. But
Yeah.
there you have to start somewhere, and so to
Yeah.
get the investors
Yeah.
and capital and exposure,
Yeah.
I decided to start small,
Hmm.
but I know I'll never be satisfied just
I
doing that.
know. Well, that's the thing. I think maybe you and I are similar in that we have so many ideas. It's like constantly streaming inside, our heads, and it's
Hmm.
really hard to uh, complete, like finish everything because we tend to hop around. How do you
Right.
prioritize and focus your mind and energy onto like just a few ideas and carry it through?
Oh man, and you should see my notes, my notes right
It's
now.
like stickies everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what I have, this is a really great app, and it helped me kind of plan to,
Hmm.
pick the friends. I used it in my theory classes when I was in
Hmm.
France, but it's called MindNode, and so it does mind mapping. And we love.
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but I love sectioning things and
Right.
separating things, and
Right.
so it would give each topic a little bubble, like a brainstorm, but it would also come into like an outline in a way.
Hmm.
And so it just lets I can just blurt out my thoughts onto that app, and
Hmm.
then make more sense of it. I'm very visual in a way, and so that's what's helping me.
What's the
And
name of that app again? I'm going to write it down.
it's
Sorry.
called MindNode, MindMondNode.
Okay. It's called My Note.
MindNode, yes.
Oh, My Note.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'll make sure I will add that into the caption when I share the recording. Okay, that's a good tip. Thank you.
Sure. And
Yeah.
and so yeah, I have to take baby steps at a time, and have
Yeah.
been collecting materials and
Hmm.
really kind of picking out, looking at things. I mean, my girls and we were just downtown, and they have a smorgasbord, and
Hmm.
there's lots of interesting kind of mom and pops, kind of
Hmm.
starting out with all kinds of interesting designs and flavors. I mean, they had goth tacos and
Yeah.
Thai
Yeah.
gelato,
Yeah.
oysters on the half, and a beer garden with micheladas. And so, that's a really big part of LA culture, the food trucks. I can tell you, going to France, there were absolutely no food trucks, and that was surprising.
Really?
No, not I had to make my own
Wow.
taco trucks,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
tacos.
LA food scene is incredible. I really miss it. Comparing LA with San Francisco, the Bay Area, I really
Hmm.
miss the just the variety of food and
Hmm.
also much better prices, I think, in LA compared to where I am now.
Oh,
So
SF is it's pretty steep, no pun.
oh my gosh. No, yeah, no, no, no. We hardly eat out here anymore, but we do go to LA a few times a year, so I will make sure I eat well when I go to LA.
And let me know if you need any
I,
suggestions, or
yeah,
me
yeah.
to join you, where
Of
I
course,
can
I would
find
love to see
some
you in
flavors.
person. So another question I have is like, how does one raise a capital if they want to go to school abroad? That's one thing. And also like to do a pop-up store like this, can you tell us more about how to raise capital to start your business or get your school going?
Oh, for school, well, I have my own apartment and such, but I would just kind of, I mean, during quarantine, we weren't going anywhere
Right.
outside of my Uber expenditures. It was pretty easy to save.
Hmm.
But also, departing with the company, I also had like stock options and a 401k. So, I kind of invested in myself, reinvested in myself and my schooling,
Nice.
to do that. And also, school is very expensive in the US, and that's why
Correct.
I was always reluctant to attend, because I didn't want to be in crippling debt for a major that I wasn't, sure that I would
Yeah.
finish. And, I
Yes.
did not finish my psychology degree, but I took a few classes.
Right.
and so yeah, just saving up. I would do some little like flea markets and such,
Uh-huh.
get a little booth there, and the fees, they just start at maybe $100.
Mhm.
I think the more popular ones go to 300, and so forth for the festivals. And so right now, I'm looking at a lot of grants and
Mhm.
everything. I also um, in school, I also was awarded the James Beard Scholarship
Mhm.
for 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or 2022.
Mm-hmm.
However, I wasn't able to accept it due to the circumstances with my school.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that was a bit of a struggle for me.
Mm-hmm.
But scholarships, grants,
Mm-hmm.
saving what you can. I had a pretty good job during quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
so it allowed me to gain that capital. But
Mm-hmm.
you'd be taking out loans in America that would be,
Yeah.
it would it would increase your debt and your fees exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
So I can say that maybe per semester or per year for my school in France,
Mm-hmm.
it was probably a third of what I'd be paying
Yeah.
to go to somewhere like CIA for
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for the
Yeah.
year semester.
That's true. That's
And
true.
so that's why I was big on attending school in Europe,
Yeah.
even though as a foreigner, I'm paying
Mm-hmm.
more. It's nothing like I would be paying
Yeah.
for any type of schooling in
Yeah.
America. And schooling in America is a privilege, and it's almost by design.
Yeah.
There was a point where we could attend school and people cost like
Right.
maybe 10, 30 times less. Back when our parents were attending.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, it was really important that it was something that I could sustain. And
Mm-hmm.
then also, I actually plan on going back and,
Mm-hmm.
finishing for culinary because if you want to be a private chef or personal chef, you can't just feed people pastries. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go to CIA for that. And CIA they have a good relationship with James Beard, and they have
Mm-hmm.
a website that's just for scholarships. And
Mm.
so James Beard was the only scholarship that Ducasse really had
Mm-hmm.
outside of like an early bird.
Mm-hmm.
But James Beard is just a phenomenal program. There's chef
Mm-hmm.
writers that I'm acquainted with throughout the chef community. We're really tight. And so
Mm-hmm.
we share each other, we share this information with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And James Beard actually liked my application so much that they gave me 150%, more
Wow.
scholarship. And I think it was really
Mm-hmm.
based on my profile.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a black
Yes.
femme presenting, more non-binary
Mm-hmm.
woman
Mm-hmm.
with autism and ADHD, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't see that
Yeah.
all the time, in the kitchen or in the environment. And I think that's what a big
Mm-hmm.
challenge for me is that I didn't see myself in my clients
Mm-hmm.
in LA. There's no one that looked like
Yeah.
me. Uh, Throughout our entire company's clientele, with about
Mm-hmm.
100 different
Yeah.
restaurants under our belt.
Right.
And in France, even less. Every
Mm-hmm.
famous chef,
Mm-hmm.
was like, an older French guy.
Right.
You didn't see women, and I think my school kind of, reflected that with my treatment and, lack of support.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can tell you though. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just along the line of, being a Black disabled neurodivergent student in a foreign country. In your note, you were mentioning about being discriminated against while you were in school. So I was going to ask you, what was that like?
It's really frustrating. The last thing I want to do is point the finger and be like, that's racist, or that's ableist, or whatever. But it became really obvious because there's a big culture of favoritism, and like I literally did not have the capacity to brown nose. So it's exhausting. I have teammates that were not very nurturing or very supportive in my classroom, or more so distracting in a way. I had to email my school back and forth and advocate for myself all the time about things that were promised and things that I needed. I couldn't always make the attendance because I would get sick and be stressed out. We're very big on artistic people have really bad kind of like gastrointestinal problems, and so I'd be out for a whole day. And so these are things that I asked for, or I put on my application, that I did have ADHD at the time, as I knew, and I gave them all my doctor's notes that I provided with my employers. Right. And, they made it seem like it was okay, but then they also kind of said, oh, well, if you don't finish, we can, give you your degree and the diploma, which is kind of cheating and kind of selling myself short because, I wanted to finish. And so when it came to a point where, they decided that I should, prolong my education, I realized that they didn't have my best interest in heart, and that, when confiding in other, other professionals, that they didn't know what to do with me. And so I'd almost rather them not have accepted me into the program if they
Right.
couldn't support my needs but take my money.
Right.
And so, it's really frustrating because I was looking forward to, using my scholarship and, continuing the next year. And so I was just like, I can't do this. It's not a place conducive to, growth for everyone. And so, there was favoritism towards, of course, the people that were French or spoke French. My needs just went unregarded. I mean, I'm talking about, I thought it was a cultural thing that they didn't answer emails, but they just didn't have, the bandwidth to support me. And
Well, do you think that they didn't know what they didn't know? Well, I think maybe they also didn't believe you, because you seem to be so put together, capable, and yet we know autism is a very dynamic disability. So it's hard, but it's real to us, isn't it?
It's
And
real.
it's
Yeah.
real.
It's real. And so, I mean, I have signs, like I have my anxiety is crippling sometimes. And so there were times where I would, get frustrated or cry and, or, struggle to keep up with some things. I'm not going to lie. And so I can't say that I was, the top tier student, but I did try, but I would have been able to, I think do much better if I was giving the support that was actually guaranteed, because at bare minimum, I was expecting them, to have the same professionalism and live up to their promises, as a school. And, I understood that I needed needs and, was trying, did my best, to ask for those and gain understanding. But, it seems that anybody that made their job difficult and stood up for themselves had a problem. And so you'll see there was, a lot of signs overall. Like, you didn't really see a lot of diverse, people or backgrounds or cultures, in higher positions.
Right.
It was very rare that you, see some representation there. If you look on the website, up until recently, they didn't really have any, students of color or that were representing the school. And then our chef had a really hard time, with my last email requesting to be, transferred. And when they promised me, like, oh, your diploma, or to transfer to schools, I was going to transfer to the other campus, where it's a different environment. But I had to let them know why I wasn't returning to this campus. And a lot of it was because of my treatment and the, the what you call it, the disregard, for my education. And also it was, a culture within, my classroom that, I wish to separate from. I've made some great friends all throughout, the school and program. But I just was like, oh, I will not tolerate, being, mistreated, misrepresented. And so, I looked up and, saw that, a lot of my classmates had mentioned, how discriminatory or just how off-putting, our head chef was. And it seems like they were into following, people like Jordan Peterson, and who, can be quite, controversial, especially for people that are neurodivergent and having these, kind of racist, sexist, ableist takes as a psychologist. And so, it kind of gave me an idea of who I was dealing with. Kind of after the fact. And it's just like, how dare, a strong Black disabled woman challenge me and, and question, my authority in ways. And I've had other classmates get in trouble for, I guess, supposedly, besmirching the school's name for virtually nothing. So it really gave that kind of authoritarian type of way. And for neurodivergent people, we're really big on, like justice and equality. And so anytime someone slights us,
Hmm.
it's really personal.
Yeah.
And, I try not to process it in that way, but,
Yeah.
talking to my friends and they're like, that's screwed up. They basically said, like,
Mm.
kind of like, screw you, like,
Yeah.
go on. And so it was really telling and it's heartbreaking in a way. And, I'm not
Mm.
going to lie, I was, quite depressed by
I'm sure.
the whirlwind. And so
Hmm.
I decided, come back to LA and, just, continue to, support my
Hmm.
dreams in the best way
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
So, recipe development and then, of
Yeah.
course, popping up with the markets and
Yeah.
everything. And, taking another shot of it in another direction in a school and a state or country that will support me.
Hmm.
One thing I can say, about California is that we have a lot of privileges. I mean, we have a lot of privileges as Americans,
Yeah.
despite being disabled and non-binary or just non-male presenting. And so it's like there's so many protections for discrimination,
Yeah.
for even pay or just laws
More
in which
so in California. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
to the point where there's places that don't want to do business with us because it's going to cost them money. They
Yeah.
can't take advantage of us,
Yeah.
and so I just knew that I'd have more studying or more protections
Right.
when studying, and knowing
Yeah.
that my accommodations will be taken seriously
Yeah.
as they were at work.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, you are persevering to follow your passion, and you're going to continue to plan to finish your education, even though it's not going to be easy.
Right, right. But I think it's like, I'll go where I'm wanted and supported, even if it costs me a little bit more, if it takes a
Yeah.
little bit more time
Yep.
to do it right, because no one could have predicted that
Yep.
going into a new country. And yes, I know, like,
Right.
like specifically Parisian people are not the kindest.
Mm-hmm.
They don't take kindly to outsiders per
Yeah.
se.
Yeah.
But talking to some of my French friends in retrospect, they're like, yeah, France isn't the place for disability accommodations, and
Mm-hmm.
the kitchen is so bad. The kitchen culture in France is so bad that it's like if they see a woman in the kitchen, it's like kind of like, what are you doing here?
Right.
I've seen top chefs, female chefs, talk about like, oh, there's a lady in the kitchen. I'm like, we belong. We're not just at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so just seeing that type of understanding that, I knew wasn't going to be a challenge. And even then, like I said, my clientele in LA didn't really have any of my faces,
Yeah.
amongst them. And so, I know that I'm here to break down boundaries. And so, I'm knocking at them, slowly but surely.
Yes.
But I do plan, to represent. I'm very transparent, about
Mm-hmm.
everything that I go through.
Yeah.
And I wish to really, really help or influence other people to do the same.
Yeah. You
And and
will.
s- and so, like, I know that there's people that may on this be on different parts of the spectrum or
Mm-hmm.
journey in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here to say that it's possible, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come without some planning
Mm-hmm.
or some disappointment
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, or frustration rather, not even disappointment,
Yeah.
because things
Yeah.
happen. But having to advocate for yourself when you're already exhausted,
Yeah.
and of course, as someone said, being asked to mask all the time, like, think about it, I have to wear a double mask
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And so not only am I code switching, and
Right.
because I'm from South Central, and so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we be talking like this. and
Mm-hmm.
and so being able to switch back and forth and kind of put on this cap
Mm-hmm.
in predominantly white
Right.
institutions has always been draining in LA too.
Right.
But it's not, with a different culture in France, there's a lot more to it to adjust. And
Yeah.
so it is exhausting. I come home and take a
Yeah.
nap after
Yeah.
my shift and school and such. And so yeah, there's
It's
so many
understandable. Yeah.
yeah.
There was a question earlier. I'm looking. Are there vegan food places to work at in Montreal that accommodates autism?
Now, Montreal, I'm not familiar
Mm-hmm.
with. I'm,
Mm-hmm.
born and raised in LA
Mm-hmm.
and California. And so I'm sure there are. I'm not sure what the accommodations are in Canada. I
Mm-hmm.
really can't speak for
Right.
Canadian
Right.
industry. But if I'm happy to look at them and look them up and
Mm-hmm.
help you find them. I
Yeah.
think it's something to prioritize. But I also learned, and this is from a lot of blogs, is that
Uh-huh.
sometimes you don't want to tell your employer. And I also,
Mm-hmm.
and I think with school, I was probably better off not saying
Mm-hmm.
anything and them, dismissing me for my disabilities as opposed to just kind of sticking it through,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even just focusing on the anxiety or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yeah.
Because now they're having all these preconceived notions about or these kind of ableist thoughts about what I'm capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in myself, the internalized
Mm-hmm.
ableism, having gone so long,
Yeah.
without it, you have to process it and understand how, how people, may see you, and kind of understand, why that doesn't apply to you and how you can, challenge those expectations. And so, yeah, I mean, there's always that thing they say, oh, you don't look autistic. and
Right.
and so and my therapist says that I definitely have a little bit of a benefit in a way compared to some of her other clients, and is advocating for me and able to write me notes so I can be accommodated throughout. But she's very supportive, and I always recommend therapy for sure. Like,
Yeah.
if because you know yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been through 4 therapists as well, and so you need to communicate with them and tell them your plans and help them kind of guide you
Yeah.
through your neurodivergence or your
Mm-hmm.
other mental health concerns,
Mm-hmm.
and really support you in that way. And
Yeah.
I was able to I got tested for the ADHD, and my therapist was a specialist, and she actually pointed out that, oh, are you sure you're not autistic? And
Ah.
the stomach problems was a big one of
Yeah.
them. But just the sensory overload, big one,
Mm-hmm.
migraines.
Yeah.
I stem in other
Same.
ways. I was a nail biter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I pick, or I don't sit still. I listen to music. I
Right.
like kind of have to listen to music to keep me going
Mm-hmm.
all the time. I'm the girl in public with the big headphones on, and
Mm-hmm.
so we have to learn coping
Yeah.
skills, and that's something that I learned a lot of in the past maybe three
Right.
years to have strong coping
Mm-hmm.
skills. And so that's something I'm constantly working on.
Yeah.
um, but learning your boundaries too. Sometimes people take
Yep.
advantage of us, and I think that was one thing with school. um, and so yes, I was, yeah, it was hard. They didn't really diagnose me with a therapist. However, in the process of getting that taken care of too.
Yeah.
However, I have a registered psychologist, as opposed to a therapist, who
Mm-hmm.
is I'm under her care, and she's treating me for it, and
Yeah.
her methods. And
So I see that there are some people from Los Angeles. So maybe if, let's see.
UCLA, that's where I got tested
Right.
for the
So yeah.
ADHD.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So maybe ask Erin through DMs if you want to find out more about mental health support,
Mhm.
get recommendations from you, you could just DM Erin directly.
Yes, yes, yes. UCLA, I mean, they're a great program. I had a great psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
who helped me through my medicines
Mm-hmm.
without any kind of problem.
Yeah,
And so they do have the testing and stuff there. And it isn't cheap. So even with your
of
insurance, it's a
course.
privilege. It's a privilege. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not to say that everyone should self-diagnose themselves, but knowing
Mm-hmm.
yourself and understanding the
Yeah.
symptoms and talking about it with community is very important,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this late
Yeah.
age.
Right.
Um,
Right. Knowing what your diagnosis means to you,
right.
I think, as an individual, I think that's very important, right? And no one else can define that but yourself. So it takes a lot of trial and error. I get that.
Yes, and so it's still on a journey, but UCLA, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they are good. The county, if you have Medi-Cal and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you can get all kinds of psychiatric treatment and therapy for free with your Medi-Cal if you're in LA or
Mm-hmm.
California. There's some things you're gonna have to come out of pocket for, but they prioritize mental health, and that is another California
Yeah,
thing.
that's
That
a
is like
California thing.
if you're in Ohio, no way. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Or
guys.
Texas. It would be harder, right?
Right, right. And these places don't have it easy for disabled people and don't prioritize social
Yeah. Yeah.
socialized, care. And so, I'm
There,
grateful
there,
for that.
there is a comment here, Erin. I don't know if you mentioned this already, but how can I access whether or not I should or shouldn't disclose my diagnosis to my
It's
employer? This is. Mm-hmm.
it's that's important. It is a big one. And
Mm-hmm.
so in California, they have HIPAA laws, and so HR is not supposed to share all that information
Right.
with people. They actually don't really want you to, tell them your
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis. And so in my job, I worked for a B Corp,
Mm-hmm.
and so they give you this form and doesn't
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, so what do you have? They ask, how can we accommodate you?
Mm-hmm.
How often do you need it?
Yeah.
And so my doctor fills out that form, and says, I need extra time off. I need, a visual
Right.
calendar. So all these different,
Mm-hmm.
tools or,
Mm-hmm.
timings and such, a certain schedule,
Mm-hmm.
for say, a certain part of the workload or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether they need to transfer you or not is going to be up to consideration.
Right.
But in a lot of places, your employer is not supposed to, or know you're in full medical
Mm-hmm.
history, or it's not to their advantage. And so it's if you're comfortable. I know every place doesn't have that type of support or that
Mm-hmm.
barrier in between.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's something I would say you should talk to with the therapist
Yeah.
because or a psychiatrist, because those are the ones that are going to be writing your
Right.
notes. Again, it is a privilege, but
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of different nonprofits and government programs
Mm-hmm.
that can support you through that. I
Mm-hmm.
know the regional center, if you're underage, can
Mm-hmm.
test your kids
Mm-hmm.
and can even test me, as long as I can prove that I have some type of history as a child.
Mm-hmm.
So, they'll support you and give you benefits throughout at least that
Yeah.
point, or to get you where you need to be.
Right.
However, it's what you're comfortable with. It
Mm-hmm.
really depends on your, deficits, I guess, at work.
Mm-hmm.
Time management and different things.
Yeah.
Like I need extra
Right.
time to do tests.
Mm-hmm.
That was accommodation that I required through school.
Mm-hmm.
However, maybe I could have had my doctor say that as opposed to be like, hey, I got ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
look at me, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
autistic, give me everything you have. And so it also in France, like they kind of have they asked the question, like, oh, so is this part when I called out sick, it's not just like, hey, you're, like, okay, you're sick, have a good day. It's like, so what kind of sick are you? And I'm just like, you kind of know what's going on. Like this isn't a conversation I need to
Right.
have. It's not something I should, have to tell you.
Yeah.
But they're a place where, my friend could break her foot and they're like, can you still
Oh,
come?
oh my gosh.
Yeah, my friend
Yeah.
couldn't stand.
That's
How am I going to bake a
crazy.
cake?
Yeah.
So
Well, my recommendation is that you can do soft disclosure and always do it in writing, because if you do it through email, one, you can always go back and edit it, or you can ask advice from others, from your therapist, to help you use um, language that can be easily understood by people who don't know much about neurodivergence, but because we do it in writing, we can hold them accountable as well, and also shows that we were being proactive when we're inviting, our coworkers or supervisors to also be proactive.
Um, yeah, writing is a big one for me. I have a strong command of the English language,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of us Auties, like, are really concise with our
Mm-hmm.
language at times. It's like, I
Right.
said what I said,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I specifically picked that word out of the
Yeah.
language to convey,
Yeah.
or express,
Yeah.
my purpose or, my needs.
Yeah.
And so if you can't do it, always ask for help. I know sometimes, when I was frustrated and you're pissed off in an email, write it in your notes first, because make sure you can't send it. Write it in your notes and say, okay, let me knock it down a couple tones, maybe I'm upset.
Exactly.
And then, and think about, it sucks that we have to think about this, but think about how an holistic person is going to view this, and you can apply that information. And all this necessary, because I'm an overshare, she got a paragraph or an essay from me earlier. And so, as far as draft, I was going to answer the person's question. Nick was
Nick.
So drafting your letter of recommendation or accommodations, that's not something that I was permitted to do within my job. It was like, hey, fill out this form based on, fill out this form, based on your needs and, what the company, needs to expect from you. But, don't tell us everything, just, what you need from us. And have your doctor sign it. And so they weren't really going to accept it without a professional signing off on it anyway. Yeah. And so you can maybe, I'm happy to talk about, the things that work for me, and those accommodations and, the coping skills and mechanisms that I need in order to get by. But that's something that will have to go through a licensed professional, at least in California, and, much of the state and or country. And so, again, if you can't, it is a privilege, but, if you do have access to a healthcare provider or, somebody with a pen and degree, hopefully you'll be able to get them to sign off and really tell your employer that, this person does have needs. And talk to them, and see how comfortable you are sharing, the things that you want, because of, those different boxes that they put us in. And I mean, each employer is different, but the less you say, the better, I honestly think. Again,
the less you say, it's better, but also there are ways that you can avoid jargon. Like as an autistic person, all these terms that we use, like sensory differences, our boss might not know at all. Like, what does that mean to have sensory differences? You know what I mean?
So sensory differences, that's something as big as your environment. Right. It could be the people. So like, my classmates distracting me or being unkind say. It could be, the people running the school, so the administration, could be not be taking you seriously or making you stress out, about certain policies that you can't necessarily follow. And you express that, but they ask them of you anyway.
Exactly.
It could be, of course, different, stimulating, the noise, like maybe you can't have, the ice machine running all the time.
Exactly.
Or it can't be too hot. And so some things you can't really change like that. In your environment. But, you could, find a way to take a break. One of the things that I spoke to with a professional in regards to knowing the law and what they can accommodate in France was the internship that I was going to take. I asked the school if I could have a shorter work week because I would crash and burn by Friday. Right. So like, work Monday through Thursday, work my hours as an intern, and then I have an extra day off that I can rest and repair, because it seemed like every 2 weeks I was getting stress sick. And I mean, this was any job. And, even in a kitchen environment, which I love, that had just a few different type of stressors in it. I mean, but, working from home, maybe you need a desk. Like I had a standing desk. I need a work calendar, keep my music on, have my headphones on. At work, because we had cubicles, when I was in the office, I kind of like shared cubicles. And so everything was going on all the time. And so I just had to have my noise canceling headphones on, stick to the computer, and actually working in the office was kind of better for me. I could enter the threshold and be like, yes, I'm at work. Let me hop on the computer and answer all these questions. And so just, knowing how, maybe it's also wearing your certain clothes.
Yeah,
You're making sure you're wearing
for
breathable
sure.
fabrics, soft fabrics. Your tag isn't itching you. We
Yeah,
hate that. Smells. It
yeah.
could be certain smells.
Sorry, Erin, we only have 4 minutes left, so
Okay.
I didn't want us to
Okay.
get cut off. But I want to tell you that if there's anything that me and my nonprofit can support you, so if you're ready to announce about your more details about your pop-up, your newest latest design or whatever you're selling, peach cobbler. I love peach cobbler. Just take a picture of you and your peach cobbler, and I'll get it out there across all of our social media. I'm always happy to do
Right.
that. When I visit I'm going to be in LA in December,
Oh,
so I'll DM you and
please
maybe
do.
we can connect
Yes.
and we can hang out in,
Eat.
in person. That would be great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, thank you so
Thank you
much,
for having
Erin, and
me, everyone.
everyone. I will write a caption, read the caption that I write because I misspell things a lot. So if I didn't do justice, like writing you a caption, just let me know. And
I'm the same way. I understand. I'll definitely
yeah,
flag
yeah,
you
but
in
help
case I
me
catch
check it
something.
out. Right. Well, thank you so much
Yes.
for spending the time, and you've been amazing and so informative. And please keep in touch
Thank
and
you.
let
And
us know.
to everyone, I'm glad I have so many people here that were, that
Absolutely.
understand or, looking forward to hearing more.
And more people later
Yes,
will
yes. I know
see
people
the
will
recording.
later.
So thank you.
Mhm.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
guys.